I'm Kelsey Litchfield, and this is the Field Advisor Podcast, where I talk with local experts to unpack the latest agronomy information and research, giving you the knowledge to make informed decisions out in the field. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Field Advisor Podcast here at Farm Progress Show 2025 here in Decatur, Illinois. And we're going to talk disease in this episode with some of our friends, Dale, Boris, Stephanie Porter with the Illinois Soybean Association. Dale, I'll start with you first. Just tell us who you are, who you're with, and some of your background, and then Boris, will go to you.
Very good. My name's Dale Ireland. I lead field development efforts for corn and soy seed treatments for Syngenta. I live in the St. Louis area, but I do that for the U.S., and it's good to be with you.
And what's your background? Tell us, where'd you graduate? What kind of career path have you had?
Okay, let's see. So my bachelor's is out of Texas A&M University. My PhD is out of Iowa State University in plant physiology. I've worked in the seed business probably more than I have in the crop protection side of things. So just think your two largest seed companies, I've worked for both of those. And I've been with Syngenta for 13 years leading this effort. Great.
Boris, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Boris Camiletti. I am the extension plant pathologist at the University of Illinois. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Crop Sciences. I studied plant diseases. I would say like 80% of my time is dedicated to red crown rot in soybeans. So that is a big concern here for the industry. So we are focusing on that disease in soybeans and also other diseases that may show up in some years.
Did you have a feeling, Boris, when you first started this job that red crown rot would be so much of your time?
Well, I was still in California, and I was exchanging emails with Carl Bradley at the University of Kentucky and Stephanie Porter here. And yeah, they told me about red crown rot. Hey, if I were you, I would start working on this disease. So yeah, I just tried to learn as much as I could when I was still in California. And then when I moved here, yeah, it was my first target here. Yeah, it can be really bad. So
yeah. Dale, tell us about the first time you heard about red crown rot.
Yeah, so it was during the development of Saltro, so that's been several years ago when we first ran across red crown rot. It wasn't a target that I had pursued with Saltro initially when we were labeling it. And we realized, based on some work by a former professor at the University of Illinois, Dr. Nathan Klashevsky, who now works for Syngenta, that Saltro was a seed treatment that actually reduced red crown rot significantly based on lab and greenhouse work. So with and he published that work in peer-reviewed publications. So once we saw that and realized that this was potential, we took it to the field. We've had replicated multi-location plots ever since then. And it's something that really is growing. I mean, I would say that maybe 20 to 30% of the questions we get at our seed care booth is about red crown rot now. And that wasn't the case 5 years ago even.
And their understanding, because I've had a couple questions, and this is just because they don't know. You don't know what you don't know, but they said something, I thought that was a corn disease because maybe of the crown part of it. I don't know, but they were very confused that it was a soybean disease, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, there's another malady caused by a completely different complex of organisms called red root rot in soy, in corn. And that's certainly been a bit more of a mystery as far as what causes it and what environment it thrives in, but it's certainly an issue in some fields.
Yeah. Boris, give us a quick snapshot of red crown rot this summer, what you've been seeing in fields. I know you have a couple projects with Illinois Soybean. You're hoping to track it and get a little bit more footing of what this disease is, but tell us about your summer and what fields you've been in that have red crown rot and locations. Kind of paint a big picture about it.
Yeah, so one of the first things that we are trying to do is to try to work on with the remote sensing, trying to keep track of the disease, where exactly it is. So in order to train the model, we are requesting farmers and agronomists to give us some locations with red crown rot. So we have been visiting these locations, and we have like the whole spectrum. We have some fields where you can see an entire patch in that field, and you will see only dead plants or plants with no pod or with empty pods. And then you have other fields, like on the other side, that the disease is still very scattered. So we are trying to encourage the farmers to do something to keep it contained. So to not spread the disease throughout the field, right? And more importantly, to other new fields that we have soybeans soon. So in my research, we have different projects supported by the Illinois Soybean Association. We are exploring the interaction with soybean seed nematode. We are doing replicated trials. This year we have 5 locations. We have 2 inoculated fields, 1 on campus, 1 in Pike County, where it was first reported. And then we have 3 locations in farmers. We have in Madison County, Macoupin, and also a farmer location in Pike County. So I think like together with the data that we can combine with other professors, with Carl Bradley in Kentucky or with Darcy Telenko in Indiana, we are very confident that at the end of this season we will have some very good data to share about the efficacy of some treatments. We are exploring seed treatments, in-furrow applications, 2x2, biologicals, and also some varieties from our program at U of I.
Have we been seeing, and this, anyone can answer this, have we been seeing it more widespread this summer? Do you feel like you've seen it more, seen it less, or it's just about the same as years past?
Well, it's certainly being found more places. I hesitate to use the word spread, but certainly there's been a new county and a new state reported. That's in central Ohio. There's been 2 additional counties reported for a total of 4 in Missouri. So I don't necessarily believe it just showed up in the last year or moved there just in the last year. I think the awareness of folks like Boris and Carl Bradley and Nathan's work previously certainly made more people aware, and a lot of publication, a lot of meetings about red crown rot, and I think more folks are out looking for it. So in other words, they're likely to find more suspicious plants, and then they submit them to like Boris's lab or to Ohio State's lab or Missouri, you know. These are all ways that folks are getting it confirmed by the local extension or university pathologists. So they're finding it more places.
And not confusing it, Stephanie, with maybe another disease. I know that's been a hot topic. You might think it's one, but it's the other. So that verifies the importance of submitting it to a lab.
Yeah, so it can be easily confused with sudden death syndrome. And Kelsey, for example, you provided unfortunately a good example on your farm where it was stem canker, where also brown stem rot, where a lot of these diseases can have the same foliar symptoms. You know, the fungal pathogen will send up a toxin after a big rain, and all these symptoms start showing up at the same time. But I think, unfortunately, in my home area, we've had some really symptomatic soybeans. So I'm in Montgomery, Christian, Sangamon County, and we just did a training, Boris and I did, with Bex, with Matt Montgomery, and they have a plot there, and to see the different symptomology on different varieties is very interesting. Also talking about the different progression throughout the season of some of these varieties and the symptomology is very intriguing. But I think a lot of questions, but still needing a lot more answers. There's just a lot we don't know. We can try to say what we think we know, maybe based on a couple seasons of beans, which is, you know, what I saw 2 years ago, but really what it comes down to, there's a lot of things we don't know.
Absolutely true. We're continuing to learn a lot as far as the environment that it favors, what level of varietal response there is, just all kinds of things. How widespread the pathogen is.
Yeah, now with new states getting on board, like we will have our capacity to test treatments will increase a lot, so I think we will be able to get very good data in shorter periods of time.
We've got to have multi-location, multi-rep tests over years, and it really helps.
Yes. So this is why we have the crop protection network, so we can all work together and combine data and to give ratings to fungicide to see which ones are helping us to control this disease specifically.
I was going to say, is there anything we preliminary know that, like, your Like I'm thinking, not how does it spread, but like what kind of, you talked about the environment. Do we have maybe an inkling of that, or we just really don't know still of what type of environment it really likes? I'm thinking, Stephanie, you talking about the disease triangle, I know, but
Oh, here we go.
I'm thinking, well, is it more like more moisture, hotter conditions? Like trying to get into that. Do we have maybe a guess?
I'd like to say something, but I'm going to let Boris take the first swing at that.
No, I think the right combination of temperature and humidity is why will trigger the infections. These are early infections that we have at the very early part of the season, and then if you happen to have a really dry season, a drought during planting, maybe the infections will not occur that hard or that common or frequent. But then if you and then the soil temperature is also an important factor. If it is too cold or too hot, the pathogen will not affect. So the like having the right combination of those parameters is what will be driving the disease or the infection.
And I don't disagree with anything you said, Boris. What I would say is it seems as though in the last 3 to 5 years, there's less environmental impact when you compare it to something like sudden death syndrome, which is, I think of a lot more environmentally triggered. That's why 20-30% of the time you might see it, but the rest of the time you don't see the visual canopy symptoms. In our red crown rot trials, it is in the same areas every year if you're growing soy after soy. It is just so dependable. So, which is nice from a field day point of view. You can bring people out, show them treatments, and there's a huge wow factor. Whereas I can have 5 different SDS locations, one of them might light up, or maybe none of them light up, or maybe 3 of them light up. But red crown rot, that's your go-to. That's got a lot of dependability from what I've seen. I think one of the biggest opportunities we have are from our soybean variety development folks, screening different lines, diverse lines, and I think all the originators are doing it now. But that's an opportunity because there appears to be varietal differences, some that are super susceptible and some that don't seem to show as many symptoms as early. It's not like anything's, impermeable.
Have you seen some like correlation with the maturity groups, like early, like being more affected than late because of the maturity group, or?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything maturity-wise because I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't work for a seed company at this point, but when you look at a nursery and you see different lines and you see some that seem like they're... Now, some of that could also be the hot spots because this is a disease that's not uniform. You've got pockets, so it could be positional, and that's why we replicate, right, Boris?
Yes.
But I think that's the greatest opportunity as far as the quickest type of performance improvement. Seed treatments are going to be valuable. I mean, we've got a couple that are really looking great, and we have data that proves that. But the combination of multiple tools, and that is staying out of soy for a while, rotation with non-host crops, I think is very important. Using a good variety, and then also something, like seed treatments can certainly be another management option. But as we were talking earlier, we're still learning things every year as far as how and why, and folks like Boris and many academics.
I guess I'll just add in some things to what you've already said. Based on 2 seasons, from what I've seen, we were able to see different planting dates, and that's just because of Mother Nature. And that's not a normal thing because most everybody, I think, not everybody, but almost everybody likes to plant early in Illinois now. And so I personally have not seen any major differences between early and later planting these last 2 seasons. I do see a difference in the progression of the disease. So earlier might get it earlier, like the symptomology, and then a little bit later you might see symptomology maybe on the later planted. But I do 100% agree that there's going to be different differences between different varieties. And I think that's probably one major area that we need to look at between genetics. And another thing with this disease that I think is different from a lot of the others, but some diseases that have alternate hosts. This one you can have not just different legume hosts, which, for example, I always throw out this example, my neighbor found it. I knew he was a dairy farmer. He had alfalfa in the field. That is also a host. So that's something that people don't think about. And we are, we talk about cover crops and having all these diverse systems, which is great. But we are going to have to be very careful when we start doing these rotations, especially when it comes to red crown rot. And it's not just legumes. It can be other plants. And I know people in Pike County, farmers have asked me, could there be, tree hosts, like just because there's so many different species out there in the wooded areas, for example. So some things to think about with the disease, but ultimately with any kind of soil-borne pathogen, I think drainage does help. And I think some observations that myself and other agronomists have seen this year is it just seems, and this is probably not any different than any other pathogen, and this isn't something revolutionary, but it seems like we're finding red crown rot more so in areas that are stressed. So we have a lot more compaction, unfortunately, this year, where people might have pushed it a little bit. We're finding it in those, it could be SCN spots we talked about, but just we'll pull up the plant if there are any roots left. Maybe you'd have to pull it out earlier, and you would see that it's compacted or those different types of things, so something to think about.
Yeah, any factor that will cause some stress on the plant early season will have an impact also on the disease development.
So Dale, my dad just went to a field day, and I did unfortunately just find red crown rot in one of our fields. Ooh. And my dad said that Syngenta is supposed to have a new seed treatment coming. Are you able to talk about it? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Oh, no, I'm more than happy to talk about it. I appreciate the opportunity. So we obviously currently have a commercial product that has a 2EE exception for red crown rot called Saltro.
And we do use that product, so that is something we do use. So I'm not endorsing any products, but
no,
we're
not
just
at
being
all.
practical.
I mean, yeah, we were just asked. So an unrelated molecule of the same class of chemistry, you may have heard of Timerium technology. And once it's registered, and it should be registered in September for the 26th season, it'll be branded as Victrato. And this product, based on our multi-location, multi-rep testing, is statistically better than Saltro is, statistically better than any of the leading competitors. So we've evaluated this for a few years now, both academically as well as with contractors and within our own internal group. And we're pretty excited about it. Not only does it have red crown rot, it'll be the first federally registered product with red crown rot on the federal label. It'll have sudden death syndrome, all your major plant parasitic nematodes, as well as some foliar disease suppression. One thing I want to reach back to, we were talking about varietal response, and one of the things that really encourages me and gives me hope that that's really going to be a real help across farms is the fact that red crown rot in soy, some of the early work was done in Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and red crown rot's not a thing there. I mean, yeah, you might be able to find it. You ask University of Arkansas plant pathologists, ask LSU's plant pathologists, and what they'll say is they believe there's some varietal response because people are not using a specific solution as a seed treatment for red crown rot. It just is not as big a deal as it was once upon a time. So maybe the disease cycled out. I don't know. I'm not a plant pathologist. I'm a plant physiologist. But it just seems to me that variety's got to play a role there. I hope it does.
Boris, what's your comments on that?
Well, I think I totally agree. I talked to the plant pathologists there, and they said basically we didn't do anything, just disappear. So
they should take
fingers crossed.
Yeah,
they should take some more credit.
They don't want us to ask more. Okay, how you did it? But yeah. So hopefully, we don't know what the future will bring us.
Well, again, it goes back to your disease triangle, Kelsey. So it's not just about the environment; it can be about the host. Like what has changed? What's different, here versus there, and how are things changed? And one of the things that got brought up during one of our trainings is we're doing management differently these last couple years, and we're planting earlier than ever, and we could be having different genetics. I don't know. We don't know that necessarily. But we are making some different management choices, and we just got to figure out, what are we doing? What could we do differently to help with red crown rot, I should say?
And one of my questions is, which I wonder if this is one of the great mysteries, is how it spreads. I mean, I know, Stephanie, you talked about getting booties. Go on the front. It reminds me going into a hog house. You know, you don't want to spread things. But do we have any idea of how it is spreading? But then you say you see it you're seeing it in the same spot, so you can pinpoint it. So what are we thinking there?
Well, I mean, as we've all acknowledged, it's soil-borne, but weirdly enough, even though Indiana had several counties that Darcy has confirmed it in, the one that we just had Horatio, plant pathologist there at Ohio State, confirm is in central Ohio. It's not even a bordering county.
He's a U of I graduate, by the way.
Is he really?
I just want to call that out right now.
Very good. Okay. All right. Fair enough. But, you know, I just have to think, and I think awareness, and you guys are doing a great job on that, just being aware, and the sky's not falling. I'm not being Chicken Little here, but what I'm saying is go out and look at those problem SDS sites. And when I put that in air quotes, and all I'm saying is look for symptoms. If you've got a field that's got SDS and no other fields around are showing SDS that normally oftentimes show SDS, maybe it's not SDS. I'm not saying it is, but just look and see. Maybe it's red crown rot potentially, and that's, you know, that curiosity. What is that? And
in some areas, unfortunately, some counties, the yield monitor is telling us that. And so it's kind of like I was a seed agronomist at one time, and sometimes we wait till the monitor or the yield monitor or the combine goes through, and we're like, what happened? So then we have to wait another 2 years, you know, to think, well, I wonder what that was, and then we don't want to automatically assume it was red crown rot. But I think that is what's happening in some areas, at least in my home area, where it's really showing up and it's getting worse every 2 years or every soybean year on the yield monitor. I'm finding it in entryways. I've heard water movement. I think Carl's brought that up before because it was showing up near some rivers, and we have a lot of different birds migration. I think this is another theory, and we have so many deer that walk across fields. And
they're thinking Pike County, it's a huge hunting area.
Yeah, a lot of deer. And then you got to think about alternate hosts. I mean, it could be a bit of everything. And one of the things I know with the economics, the way it's been, there's a huge resurge in not buying new equipment, but buying used equipment, unfortunately. And that could really move the pathogen around, unfortunately.
So how do you figure it out, how it's spread? It seems like there's a lot of ideas.
My question to you at this point in time, Kelsey, does it matter at this point? I guess that's my question to you.
Good question.
Well, we know, like, many of the things that we know about this disease is based on references that were published 20, 30 years ago when this was a very popular disease in the southern U.S. But it's also a very popular disease in Japan, so we got some more fresh literature about it. So what we know so far, at least based on these references, is that the disease is spread mainly through soil movement. So every kind of soil movement that you may have from one field to the other one, you will be taking these microsclerotia that are the resistant structures that the pathogen is producing to survive in the soil. And these structures are very resistant. They can survive in the soil for many years. And those structures are the ones infecting the roots at the following season. So that is the main factor. Now, for example, in peanuts, when they harvest, you know, they have to dig the plants, and there is a lot of soil movement there, and there is some spreading caused by that soil movement. So that is, we don't know if when we harvest soybeans, we may have some microsclerotia there that is spreading a little bit, but the disease is so patchy that let us know that maybe the soil movement is the main factor. And one of the big things that we need to know is why the disease is in that patch and what's going on surrounding in the surrounding areas of that patch. Like why the disease is there and not some meters away, some feet.
Another thing we got brought up that when we talked about, just think of how much soil movement we've had in the air. We visually could see that movement.
Right.
And that could be the sclerotia as well. Sure. I mean, you never know.
Sure. And this is, I'm just using an analogy here, but Greg Tilka and one of his grad students did a little bit of work on the dirty snow you see along the side of the road. And they literally, it was a grad student that brought this to Greg, as I understand it, from Iowa State there. And they looked at they collected samples of dirty snow all over in a county, melted it down, analyzed the soil, and yes, there was SCN in that soil.
Oh.
So the fact that cysts are
interesting.
blowing around, I think the theory that anything that moves soil, get as creative as you want to get, could potentially move this soil-borne pathogen.
Yeah, this is why we are working on a molecular methods to be able to keep track of this inoculum. So if there is some spreading because of the wind or during harvest, we can put some traps, collect the spores, the microsclerotia eventually, and then detect them. But this is something that we need to do only with qPCR or molecular method. We cannot do it visually.
And it would be interesting to find out, is the red crown rot that Darcy's finding in Indiana the same red crown rot that is in your state, Illinois, or is it the same that they found in central Ohio? Are they related, or are they all different isolates? So this kind of work is phenomenal.
So USDA is doing some of that work.
Dr. Clough and Dr. Harry Karki at the USDA, they collected many isolates. So far, they identify like 2 groups of isolates, and in our lab we are seeing that one of these isolates seems to be more aggressive than the other one, that the pike or the CC1 isolate. So we are doing some experiment to see if that will have an impact on the efficacy of the fungicides, for example, with these new strains. But so far it's like we have like 2 groups of strains, and then the CC1 seems to be also in Kentucky and Indiana, and like the rest of Illinois has this other group. So we are still collecting more isolates, and from what I understand, this seems to be like a different subpopulation of the pathogen compared to what they had in the past in the southern US and also in North Carolina.
Right. So basically, they established that it was introduced. Is that correct? It's not the exact same.
It's not the subpopulation, so probably it's not that someone brought it or came here with machinery. So that that hypothesis is weaker.
So I like to throw in and make sure farmers know, or whoever's listening, we're recording this at the end of August. Is it too late to diagnose it now, or what's your recommendation there? I know the plant dies, and then you're like, well.
I was just in a trial yesterday morning on my way here, and this would have been north of St. Louis, about an hour near Hamel, Illinois. Just a real hot spot, quite a large area there of red crown rot, and you can easily still see it. There are some phenotypic differences as far as the way the plant and the leaves either are intact or not intact, or leaflets and just petioles based on if it's SDS or if it's red crown rot. Those aren't confirmable, but they should give you an idea about suspicious plants. But I really want to encourage everyone. I can't play junior pathologist. Boris, you're a pathologist, so make sure that the experts handle the sample. I mean, submit the sample properly, and then let them confirm it. I think it is pretty hard to confirm it, though, potentially sometimes, right? You can have an infected plant that has everything that lines up. It seems like it's red crown rot, but we may not be able to isolate Calanectria on that. Is that something that's you see very often?
Yeah, so like Calanectria is a very tough pathogen in the field, but then in the lab is kind of weak. So if there is a fusarium, it will outcompete the Calanectria. So sometimes it's tricky, but if you see the red perithecia, there is a high chance that it's red crown rot. But also we need to consider that we may have multiple diseases at the same time.
I was going to add that. That's one of the biggest
questions. We can
questions.
have SDS and red crown rot. We can have. I saw red crown rot and white mold at the same time. Not a good combination to have in central Illinois. And so yeah, you need to send the samples to an expert, and they will give you the right diagnosis, because the management will be different.
So I think people are so used to saying, well, is it SDS or is it red crown rot? Well, they're finding both on it.
It could be and instead of or.
And when my first visit 2 years ago to a farmer in Pike County, I found stem canker, SDS and red crown rot at this time of the year where the plant's just very weak and dead, almost dead. So I just had somebody from Montgomery County, my home county, say, you know, I think I just found it. So I think that people are, like you said, becoming aware. They're still finding it, at least this year. I think in other years it might be too late in some cases to really know. So again, I think to your point, Dale, is to make sure, and I've always said, send it off to the plant clinic or get a hold of Boris, and he's been out to my farm. So I'm not going to say you're going to visit everybody's farm, but
Job security, buddy.
he has been helped to diagnose it.
I need a chauffeur.
I need a chauffeur. And
Little mobile lab, little limo with a
So
mobile
at least
lab
I
in
can
it.
reply emails without the driving. Yeah.
the red crown rot limo. So, Boris, how do they get a hold of you? How someone might suspect it, or they need a plant in the lab? Like, how do they go about getting a hold of you? What's the best way?
Just
Email, phone number?
Email, LinkedIn. I'm very active on those. So, yeah.
You can
Yeah,
just
feel free
Google
to reach
him.
out, and we cannot promise that we can take satellite imagery for every field, but if the situation is getting worse, maybe we can take a picture and let the farmers know if the disease is widespread or is contained just there in a small patch, and maybe they can center their efforts trying to keep it contained.
So one question I have for you, Boris, are you guys forming like an academic working group on this? You know, folks like Darcy and you and Carl Bradley and University of Missouri. I mean, with all these different confirmations and Horatio at Ohio State, that you're working together. We're not working in isolation.
Yeah, absolutely. We used to have a group with Darcy, Carl, and I think that was Steve and me. And now I think we probably should start again with Horatio, which is a new addition. We have Dr. Mandy Beach in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we are constantly applying for grants, for funds to support our research. And the idea is always to do replicated trials in different environments to understand, because soils are different, environmental conditions are different, and all those are factors that will have an impact on red ground rot. So yeah, for
Excellent.
sure. And I think the industry also is making a great effort on this disease. I think we are doing everything that we can to keep it under control.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Anything else? Closing remarks? Anything you want farmers to know to keep on their radar, whether it comes to red crown rot or disease in general? And Dale, I'll start with you.
Well, I would say that certainly the sky's not falling. There will be additional management opportunities. I'm sure of this. I'm confident. I'm optimistic, I should say. We're all biologists at heart, right? And things like this are just going to continue to crop up, and we generally find some solutions. It's probably not going to be 100% satisfactory, but we will learn enough through varietal development, through seed treatment work, management, cultural practices. There's still plenty to learn. So it's not something to fear. It's something to respect and keep an eye on those suspicious plants.
And keep learning about it, yeah.
Right.
Boris,
Yeah.
what about you?
Well, I would like to highlight that early detection seems to be the key in this disease. So if you suspect that you have this disease, please send samples to our plant clinic here at the University of Illinois. I think in just 2 days they will give you the right diagnosis for, I think it's $20. And you know exactly what you have, and then you can define the strategy for the following soybean season.
Stephanie, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so Illinois Soybean Association's, funding the most research we've ever funded, and we definitely are trying our best to fund, different research with red crown rot and hit it from every angle. And so we really appreciate the University of Illinois, first of all, hiring a plant pathologist. So we're glad Boris is here, and then that he can actually carry out some of this work, and so we can learn more.
And you get out to the field too. You're not just a lab rat. That's good. We need that.
We heard he did that. I heard he did that out in California, so I was like, that's a good sign. I remember that because I was on when listening to some of your interviews. So
It's good stuff because we need production-oriented plant pathologists that can really help
Sure.
our growers. That's really important. At the end of the day, when the grower's not successful, none of us are. So we want to help them solve this.
That's a good note to end on. Dale, thank you. Boris, thank you. We appreciate
Thank
you
you.
guys coming on. We know it's always a hot topic, but just trying to get more awareness on it. What's the current state? What are we looking ahead at? So thank you for summarizing that for us today.
Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Stephanie. And good to be with you again, Boris. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the Field Advisor Podcast. Unbiased, independent agronomy information to keep your farm moving forward. I'm Kelsey Litchfield, your voice from the field. This podcast is funded by the Illinois Soybean Association Checkoff Program. Stay connected with Field Advisor on social media. Follow, like, and share to keep the conversation going. And don't forget to subscribe to the Field Advisor Podcast on your favorite podcast platform.